America is in terminal decline. Small black square, in fact, it has been in this slow process since the advent of the Federal Reserve Counterfeit Fiat Currency Act of 1913. Also occurring at about the same time, was the advent of the mass media of radio and films, which was cunningly monopolized by the enemies of all decent humanity. These two tools in the hands of international usurers and soulless supremacists, respectively, have been the cancerous tumor which has metastasized to our present insane clown world. Yes, indeed. Mr. Xi, America's in terminal decline. Make your move against this insane asylum. America has no moral or economic standing to continue being the world bully. Why else would so many countries be standing up to it now? Our corporations control government. We censor presidents. The media doesn't like the woke madness is making us a laughing stock. Our warmongering has been bankrupting us hard to imagine a collapse isn't coming. Sometimes we need to be on the outside looking in to see the obvious, small black square. The USA is in terminal decline as a direct result of endemic corruption at all levels of government. A cancer eating the USA alive? That should be pretty bloody obvious to everyone by now. As a result of never-ending US push-pull diplomacy, the government of China is now responding in kind push-pull diplomacy right back. So a lot gets said with not much value to keep each other guessing. Meanwhile, China cleans up its corruption and is thriving, and the USA does not clean up its corruption and is being eaten alive by it. Neither China nor Russia are doing anything to defeat the USA. They watch on bemused as the USA destroys itself with corruption and attacks anyone who dares to challenge that corruption. We can't push back against other countries like China when we are turning our own country into a police state and dividing the country on racial and political lines. I blame the Democrats and the Republicans for this. They have sold off the country by incentivizing corporations to offshore all of the good jobs and products they have perpetually overspend and increased the size of government. They have allowed the Fed to decimate the value of our currency. Small black square, they have ignored the Constitution and have merged with the media and big tech to censor and control the narrative. In short, our corrupt and sociopathic leaders have done this with intent. You are here for your daily dose of the truth. The whole truth and nothing but the truth. Please take a second to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to also hit the notification bell. Thank you. Asian players are proving to be conceptually and bureaucratically better positioned in the 21st century's great game that involves tectonic geopolitical shifts with the emergence of what commonly called the Eurasian continent, which is the fusion of Europe and Asia into a supercontinent. While China and Russia solidify their economic and political alliance, the U.S. is missing an historic chance to join a multilateral world. Instead, clinging to military empires, since Saudi Arabia, which mostly consists of flat desert with oil wells, spends more on defense than the entire 11 time zones of the nuclear power. Russian Federation. It seems they're not spending particularly wisely. Putin dropped the hint about the Saudis acquiring the S-400 when asked point-blank about the early Saturday major drone attack on the Aramco facilities, citing the need for Riyadh to protect its oil infrastructure, joking that Saudi Arabia should buy the same S-400 anti-missile defense system that Moscow already sold to Tehran, amid the laughter of Iranian officials, including President Rouhani. Interestingly, he, along with the other two leaders meeting in Ankara this week, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Iranian President Hassan Rouhani, were all in agreement that the US-Saudi coalition bombing campaign and war on Yemen must be brought to a close as soon as possible. Absolute folly that the U.S. force both Iran and Russia into China's arms instead of making deals with them and doing business. That's literally tens of trillions of dollars of business lost. Every action of the U.S. is helping create a multipolar world, a stepping stone toward world government. Those who ultimately decide U.S. policy are globalists, not nationalists. Small black square, the rise of Eurasia will trigger the permanent decline of the United States, and with it the nations considered as the West that will slide into a deep economic downturn. Small black square, social upheaval and disarray will follow once it becomes clear that the economic model is no longer functioning. Small black square, those that claim we are in the makings of such a system, refuse to acknowledge that the West is in steep decline and that there are deep ideological differences between the leadership in China, Russia, and that of the West. Small black square, Iran's foreign minister, Mohammad Zarif, paid a visit to his Chinese counterpart, Wang Li to present a roadmap for the China-Iran Comprehensive Strategic Partnership signed in 2016. The updated agreement echoes many of the points contained in previous China-Iran accords and already in the public domain. However, many of the key specifics of this new understanding will not be released to the public. Despite representing a potentially material shift to the global balance of the oil and gas sector. According to a senior source closely connected to Iran's petroleum ministry, who spoke exclusively to petroleum economists. Small black square, without any benefit of doubt, Iran become a valuable partner of Belt and Road Initiative led by China-Iran in return, get security against imperialist ambition. Small black square, the great irony is of course, that current American policies aimed at frustrating any Eurasian economic sphere are, in fact, the engine that drives this process. Russia dreamed of joining the EU and NATO as a means to build a peaceful Eurasia that was prevented by the U.S. And as a consequence, Russia created the Eurasian Economic Union as an equivalent and intended copy of the EU, since changed a bit to avoid the EU's pitfalls in practice. Russia and China will be advancing the alignment of China's new Silk Roads or Belt and Road Initiative. With Russia's Eurasian Economic Union, Russia was pushed to China by U.S. sanctions initially for loans to avoid IMF austerity and securing these loans with large oil and gas contracts. Small black square, this move created the space for the real takeoff of Belt and Road Initiative by making possible land routes from China to Europe via Russia. Since then, both Russia and China corralled as many countries as they can to their respective groups. EEA, EU, and SCO. Russia joined the Belt and Road Initiative, and it became clear that the future would be a free trade agreement between the two groups, carefully hidden initially to prevent premature U.S. interference. While the blocs were still vulnerable, Russia and China would never have been getting along so well again so quickly if it wasn't for American economic and political meddling. China stipulated in all clarity its principle of global markets, but between nation-states, not a borderless area. China is more aware of the insurmountable administrative problems of borderless societies, and as a firm believer in nation, small black square, its system is modeled on society. The group is more important than individual, but individual is paramount to innovation and progress and peace in the larger system of Belt and Road Initiative. Nations are the larger entity of individual, and the group is the Belt and Road Initiative itself. This will limit administration to each nation, leave the right to self-determination intact, and further national cultural diversity. That is good for trade. China experienced uniformity in its recent past and found it not conducive to lively interchange. That is the insight underlying its principle of non-interference in the internal affairs of other states. China was world economic engine way before the US was born in India, and China were more than 50% of the world economy since birth of Christ till 1750, they are simply taking back their place. Small black square, the rise of Asian giants like India and China will eclipse the West as social programs of free money where Social Security and Medicare are becoming unsustainable. The West can't compete with the BRICS power. The reality is that dollar is the only U.S. export, and it is about to be dropped as the reserve currency, which will turn the U.S. into a third world country. The last option is to go to war or suck it up. Small black square, the world is no longer unipolar, and the American empire is collapsing from within. No external forces needed, more or less. The leftist socialist will destroy the West as they want everything for free, with the EU running into more and more resistance to its normalizing pressures and increasing subjugation by the U.S. There will in time come a move east away from U.S. dominance and towards new markets free of neocon limitations. That is why the EU nations joined the Chinese Development Bank and silently expand trade with Russia. The future is a free trade agreement between the EU and SCO. While NATO will disappear and get reformulated as a pan-Eurasian defense force, the United States of Europe will not happen. It is not in the interest of trade while Washington remains a bipartisan prisoner to the Russia-phobic Platonic cave where Cold War shadows on the wall are taken as reality. We are missing the train to Eurasia. We would thrive if hitched a ride on the Eurasia integration. Train more jobs and more business opportunities instead of more foreign wars. Yet it won't happen. Small black square, Russia and China are developing the ultimate nightmare for those former shamans of U.S. foreign policy. Henry Kissinger and the late Zbigniew Grand Chessboard Brzezinski. A new world is being shaped rapidly, small black square, and the reality of facts will continue to demand from world leaders a new approach in a new direction. Small black square, Eurasia today is not a dream. It is a necessity.